Be careful when you're dropping somebody who is not going to return.
He sounds like a Black Caps consultant there.
He does. Are you invoicing them for that? So why not? I'm sure they'll be paying it. They'll now make 4 changes. We don't have a lot of main character energy type individuals. We're all about happy days, lazy days of summer. Somebody's going to sleep with it all the time. I mean, can I have that job?
Hello and welcome to the second edition of the Following on New Zealand podcast, brought to you by talkSPORT and 100% Pure New Zealand. We're here in the Wild Workshop Garage Project, a microbrewery in the centre of Wellington, and it's not so micro. And in fact, we've been pretty overwhelmed by our introduction to some of the beers, which include salted grapefruit, raspberry, peach, apricot, and a whole bunch of other things, and the processes involved have been pretty overwhelming. Alongside me, Dan McHardy, who is a resident, of course, of Wellington and Sports Nation commentator for almost as long as I've been doing the job. Not really. And Harmy, who had to endure what I thought was one of the best days of my life, wine tasting last week in the first edition of this program. That was up my street, not so much Harmy's. But here we are to make amends for Harmy. We've come to a microbrewery, and he's already chosen his favourite one. He's gone for the simplest one that just says beer.
Yeah. I'm a very simple man with simple tastes. I love that title. That is just brilliant. Is that why you put me in the middle?
In the middle, absolutely. And listen, we're going to be talking about the beer and doing some tasting, and it is a truly overwhelming experience. Craft beer. To a level that I never imagined existed. But we do need to pay the rent and do some cricket work first of all. So let's reflect on that first test match at the Hagley Oval. It was a huge disappointment for the home team, Dan McHardy. We said before the series began that the two teams were very evenly matched, and I think actually we saw evidence of that, didn't we? And if New Zealand hadn't punched themselves in the face with 8 drop catches, they might have bowled well. It could have been a very different result.
It's a nice turn of phrase to use, punch themselves in the face repeatedly, unfortunately. You get sent in at Hagley Oval, perversely you'd probably take 348 batting first, but not when you're 199 for the loss of 3. So I think they'll be a little bit frustrated. They threw that good position away, probably frustrated that Shoaib Bashir, who I'm not sure they would have had too many hours poring over in the team meeting, picked up 4 wickets, and credit to him. So that was the most frustrating element, I guess, as the game leaked on, was New Zealand became sort of recidivist defenders and causing a bit of self-harm. But I'm sorry, if you drop 8 catches, drop a guy 5 times, allow him to get to 171. And it wasn't as if they came after he was on 100. I think he was first dropped on 16. You probably deserve what ultimately happened, which is a very lopsided scoreline. But I'm not sure there's that much between these two sides. 8 wicket victory might flatter England, but they're the ones that didn't drop all those catches.
Yeah, I mean, at least New Zealand know what they have to do. Some extra catching practice. And we'll come on to team selection in a moment. For England, not the perfect performance.
No.
But, we've had a couple of days in Wellington relaxing, some time off, and the guys have had that time off, and this is a team that we know are very good at exercising their time off. But where to for them? Do they keep pushing? Or do they just relax and come out and try to do the same again?
Yeah, crack on. Very much the same again. Hopefully Ben will win the toss. You might have the similar outcome. Other, this time obviously the wicket looks green, but we're still 2 days out. I don't see England changing it. England don't change their game plan. I mean, if New Zealand want to drop 8 catches, England will let them drop 8 catches. They'll still flare the bat at the ball. They'll still go for the shots. They'll still look to try and impose themselves on the opposition. So no matter who the opposition is, I thought at Hagley Oval it was all about New Zealand. From a defeat point of view, it was about New Zealand. England I still think had vulnerabilities at the top of the order. They didn't. I can stick up for the bowling bit at the start. I think there was issues of footholds and stuff like that. So I can sort of give them a little bit of slack on that, because it wasn't just Wilkes that was off. I think in that first session, I think they were all off when it comes to hitting their straps and hitting the ground running first day of the series. But I mean, I would say it was a professional performance in the end, because They played the way England do, which is like a high level of intensity cricket. They will go for their fast scoring. They will try and like push the run rate. They will try and bat quickly to give themselves more time with the ball to bowl New Zealand out. And again, it comes down to one thing. This series is hugely close, and I don't see. I said at the end of that Test match, if both teams said a toss here at Wellington, no change, we'll go again. Oh, I'll still expect a very, very evenly contested game. Yeah, 8 wickets. Yeah, it did flatter England, but did it? Because you don't deserve to get anything out of it if you drop that many catches. So, Ben Stokes will turn around and say, yes, there was times where we were put under pressure, but in the end of it, all said things done. You got 5 days to win a game. Took us just as he's come out and said in the last couple of days, it took us just nearly 4, and we got a positive result, and that's all they're bothered about.
The second half of the Test, England were the better side. 254 New Zealand made in that third innings on a great batting surface. It was brown, it was dry, it was coming on. You saw how England knocked off those final few runs. There was plenty of runs to be had, and England bowled, I thought, very, very well in that. And Harmy's right. First session, I thought they were right, off it. Conceding over 100 runs, yes, they picked up a couple of wickets. But the way they adjusted, got it fuller, quick learners, and they dried up the scoring. I think only 90 runs scored in that middle session. England's bowling certainly did improve over the course of the Test match.
I still think New Zealand need game plan change. From a ball point of view, they bowl well. They did bowl well. They created 20 chances throughout the Test match. But I think they could do with a game plan change. I mean, the field sets that they've played against England twice now, more than twice now under Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes. I think they could do with a little bit of smart thinking, and I think using Will O'Rourke in a more aggressive manner. I thought he bowled an in-between length. I didn't think he bowled either fuller length or an aggressive length. I think he could be a bit more nasty. I mean, he's 6'5", bowls at 146 kilometres an hour. I mean, the short ball I thought the short ball from both sides was poor. I thought it was either not high enough or just far too high. I mean, Blundell and Pope, they had some ridiculous takes to take miles over the head, and the Sheen were wides and extras in the game. So I think just a little bit of smart thinking, smart cricket from somebody like, and it's not from Will O'Rourke. I think it's from the bowling unit and their plans against the England players. I think if their field positions are better and some of their aggression is utilised properly, I think they can put this England team under even more pressure. But they created chances. So Will O'Rourke will say to me, no, I created the chances. So did Nathan Smith, so did Tim Southey, so did Man Henry. Just didn't catch them, and it'll always come back for this first Test match at the Hagley Oval. It'll always be remembered for New Zealand dropping 8 catches.
I'm interested in what you thought, Dan, of the selection of Shoaib Bashir and also his bowling, and then your thoughts on the chosen one, Jacob Bethel at number 3. Huge trumpet fanfare for his Test debut, and then people getting very excited by the fact that he made 50 off 37 balls and scored the winning runs. But it was a minuscule run chase of 104, and he had a free hit, really. I mean, literally, and he did. He used it, but very, very effectively. So super exciting, but it's a fairly small sample size to be making judgments.
Yeah, without question. And I'm not sure if New Zealand were deer in headlights over the last 7 or 8 overs. I'm not sure they had much of a semblance of a plan. And if they did have a plan, I think it was thrown out the back door, and they asked bowlers to do things they're not accustomed to. But credit the young man, he played some beautiful shots, and he took a liking to Nathan Smith when he really got going. And in that first innings, I thought he did a good job, in tricky conditions with the ball still moving around a bit. And I'm not sure there's much he can do when he gets out for 9 in the first innings. He's played with the perfectly straight bat. It's just moved away from him enough and feathered an edge. So you probably give him a pass on that. I'm sure that has done wonders for his self-belief and confidence, and obviously cemented his spot in the top order. Ollie Pope behind the stumps, I thought was really tidy, wasn't he? I thought he did a really good job, and obviously getting him back to form is really important for the longer term picture as far as England's concerned. As far as Shoaib Bashir, anyone who picks up 4 wickets at Hagley Oval is doing a fabulous job. No one's ever taken a Test 5-wicket haul bowling spin. I think only him and Shakib Al Hassan have very close to the best figures at that ground. And if you're alongside Shakib, you're obviously in pretty fine company. I hadn't seen a lot of him. Caught up with a guy I've known well over a number of years, Jitan Patel, and asked him, what do you like about this bowl? And my lord, it was like he was opening a Christmas present. The way he sort of opened up, his eyes lit up, big smile on his face. Talked about, wonderful kid, tall, obviously, long fingers, all those weird things spinners come up with. And dropped a line of he doesn't have too many battle scars either, because spinners have long memories, especially if you're Jitan Patel. So hugely encouraging. On a surface that wasn't really going to offer a whole heap. And I don't think we're going to see much of the Basin Reserve. I know last summer in March with the Australian Test match, there was a lot of spin and bounce. That doesn't happen. That was on the back, in my opinion, of a very abnormal Wellington summer where it was dry, very warm, and quite unusually spun. I think they've changed the soil in the off-season too. So I think what we're going to find is both captains are wanting to bowl at the toss, but you still got to bowl well. I've seen sides be sent in on, a green mumba and get 500 at that surface.
You're listening to the Following on New Zealand podcast, edition 2, and we're coming to you from the Wild Workshop, a part of the Garage project. And if it's not just wine and beer, I promise you, that New Zealand has to offer, although that's what New Zealand Tourism have offered me and Harmy, and we are very grateful indeed for that. But it is also a land of fantastic travel, experience, landscapes. Climb mountains, go mountain biking, jump off bridges, bungee jump. So many things to do in this country, and it's also wonderful, wonderful food, gourmet food. If that's your thing, go high end or just go for the mince and cheese pies. It's the land of the best pies in the world. Harmy's got a foot in both of those camps. And we're having a fantastic time. We'll talk in a moment about the New Zealand team and their selection issues. All right, Daniel, as I said, you are a Wellington local. Before we get on to talk about the New Zealand team, can you tell me, and Harmy actually, why it is that we love your hometown so much?
What's not to love about the Riviera of the South Pacific? Glorious, beautiful, can't get any bigger. The geography won't allow for sort of suburban sprawl and perpetuity. Iconic wind tunnel-esque topography. What's not to like? 14 seasons in one day.
Okay, well, it's 4 for sure. I mean, every single time I go out, and I have been here at various times of the year, I do take a small rucksack with a couple of options.
Yes.
Which does make sense.
And never an umbrella. If you're coming, don't worry about an umbrella.
Just blown inside out.
It's blown inside out, utterly pointless. Long range jacket, that's the key.
All right, we're about to move on to taste another beer. And I have to say that we have just been told that there is this beer that we can try later on, guys. It's called Chance, Luck and Magic, and there's another one called The Elephant Never Forgets. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and I don't know what it means for us. I thought you might know. I thought you might have a feeling. Okay, come on, let's talk about New Zealand. Dan, actually, no, let's start with you, Harmy, because the teams are very precious about their wicketkeepers, particularly when they're very long-serving, and they serve a purpose and a role with the bowlers very often that is underappreciated by those of us observing, and you know better than anybody. I mean, sometimes if your game is not on song, it's the wicketkeeper who's in best position to put you right and give you some advice. So when the keeper's short of runs, that's not the only thing to consider. Mitchell Santner, does he come into the player spinner? I mean, the record doesn't necessarily suggest that Mitchell Santner is a shoo-in or a specialist spinner is a shoo-in. Tim Southey's place is being questioned. As we said at the end of the Hagley Oval Test match, they can either make no changes or as many as 4. Before we get Dan's thoughts, yours.
Yeah, Tim Southey's an interesting one. Can he play 3 back-to-back Test matches? Bear in mind he has to play at Seddon Park now. It's his home ground. It'll be his last Test match. I think.
Swing there.
He said he said he would hang on if they're in the World Test Championship, but I think they're not going to make that now. So that will be his final Test match. So, do you give him a rest to get him to that point? That's a sentimental selection, which I'm not a big fan on. If he's fit enough to play, you wheel him out. If you are in a position where you are going to win the toss and bowl first, and it's going to be something in it. You probably want Southey for the first 6 overs, especially. So I wouldn't be averse of going same team. The one thing I'll say on the wicketkeeper is be careful when you're dropping somebody who is not going to return. The minute you think, because there's a leaving somebody out at 25, 26, where you think in 6 months' time, a year's time, the next injury, he just needs to hit some balls, catch some balls. He'll be back because he's too good. I mean, Blundell's gone. Once you leave him out this, he's gone. And I think you weigh up the fact that what he gives to the group, what he gives to the side, I think from inside, this is what, from a selection point of view or from a management point of view, that's what I would be looking at it. Is he sort of killing us, and we are losing so much with him? He dropped a couple of catches and he's not scoring any runs. I think his value is a bit too high for this team for him to be left out right in the middle of a series. I think if he still hasn't scored a run at Seddon Park, then unfortunately his career's over. And I think that's where we're talking career moments over. I remember coming here myself in 2008. Me and Huggard got left out. That was our careers over. I know I went back on and played in 2009. Broad and Anderson were ready to take over. They'd been ready for a year and a half. I mean, they'd been ready for a year and a half. So, questions. Is there somebody to come in? I'm not seeing anybody. I'm not being told that there's somebody who is even before the first test match, they're talking Latham keeping wicket, captain, moving down the order, or Conway, or Phillips. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, you've got to have a bit more respect for Tom Blundell as a character and a player, a valued member of the dressing room for that. So I would stick with him for that to go through. I potentially would just flip him. And I said this on air during the last test match. In that second innings, I'd have sent Phillips in ahead of him. Just because England were so dominant, England were putting them under so much pressure. You were around parity, 5 down. And if I was New Zealand, I would have sent Phillips in and just gone, right, just throw a counter punch. Give England one back, go and hit 25, 30 off a short space of time. Mitchell looks great at the other end, England are struggling. And then see if we can get some momentum and see if we can then push the target on that little bit more. So before I drop him, I'd maybe look at a little bit of a tinkering. That Phillips to 6 and Blundell to 7 might be something that New Zealand might look at. But apart from that, I'd keep the same side.
He sounds like a Black Caps consultant.
It does. Are you invoicing them for that?
So why not?
I'm sure they'll be paying it.
They'll now make 4 changes.
I tend to agree with you on Glenn Phillips. I've been saying it for a number of months now. I think he's only batted more than 3 hours once in Test cricket. I think at times they're selling him a little bit short. Yes, he's very good with the tail, as we saw in that 58 not having.
That tail's got stronger because Smith makes the tail stronger.
Yeah, so I think there's a little bit of sense in that, and also just to help alleviate the burden on Tom Blundell. I think he's been a really good servant for a number of years now. And he's filled a number of roles. He opened a test match, a Boxing Day test, and got a second innings 100 against Australia. The kid can play, but it's been a dreadful year by his very high standards, averaging in the teens with the bat. It's a particularly long malaise. Defensively in India, he looked all at sea. He was missing it by quite some distance, and he just can't catch a trick now. And you saw the first ball duck in the second innings. Wokes goes, Williamson gets him, and he thinks he hasn't hit it. And there is a feather there, so it just shows you his game is not there with the bat, but all the noise coming out of the Black Caps they're going to stick with them. They've named their squad for all 3 tests. Whether or not they call anyone in for the 3rd test, only time's going to tell. To Army's point, is there someone ready to come in? Maybe not just yet. Hay out of Canterbury seems to have a fair bit of helium under him. Dane Cleaver's been a wonderful contributor to Central Districts cricket, but he might be in the wrong age bracket, sort of that mid to late mid-30s. Fletcher's another one, the Auckland wicketkeeper they've tried, but I think they're going to trust Tom Blundell to get back and perform. But he's clearly out of sorts with the bat, and what I'm worried about is really impacting his glove work now. Yeah. This was a player, check all the record books, he was taking catches at world-class level. I think up until the Indian series, he'd only ever dropped 5. I think he's dropped more in those 4 test matches combined. And even some regulation ones. So I hope he can get back to his best. New Zealand need him. You can't carry a number 6 against this English side. So maybe playing at his home venue where he knows well, where the ball does come onto the bat. He's very good with the horizontal bat shots. Hopefully that will spark a bit of life. But it's not just Tom Blundell, New Zealand need runs from. It's Devon Conway, averaging 23 this year. It's the captain, who's actually had quite a lean couple of years. And if he wasn't handed the captaincy in recent times, I think people would be talking about his production. Daryl Mitchell too. It was great signs in that second innings. I thought that was a really mature innings. He put away the shot that got him out to cast in the first innings and dug in. So that was good. And hey, we've got the genius that is Kane Williamson, who's just a run-scoring machine. He's been injured in and out and comes in and scores 90 and 60. But the big question amongst New Zealand fans is, how do you fit Will Young into this equation? With 5 bowlers probably needed, because you've got to have to win this test. You want to win the test matches to win the series and to keep your mathematical hopes alive of making the World Test Championship. So I don't see them altering the balance of their side. What I mean by that is Phillips will be at 6 or 7, Blundell. So how does Will Young come in, if at all?
Does Santner come in?
No, not in Wellington. I'll be staggered. He wasn't even the frontline spinner heading into the Indian series. Bowled brilliantly when called upon on a surface that spun from straight from ball 1. This is the Basin Reserve. I'll be very surprised. They were caught short last summer. They misread conditions, but I'll repeat, it was the end of summer. It was particularly dry summer. It spun, but all I'm hearing from the Wellington players who've played at this venue, it's back to the Basin.
Yeah, I can't.
It's still December.
I mean, the Santner one was a weird selection because the only place he can come in for is Phillips. It's the only place he can. If he comes in for one of the seamers, I mean, if he comes in for Saudi, you're basically going into a test match with O'Rourke, who's played 4 test matches, and Smith, who's played 1. That's huge pressure on Matt Henry. If he doesn't come in for Saudi and comes in for one of the others, you've got 3 seamers. One of them's Tim Saudi, and we've seen what's happened after the sort of new ball wears off, the way England have tread him. Then again, that's a little bit more pressure on a Will O'Rourke or a Matt Henry. So I can't see how Santner features, and if he does, the ground's a lot smaller here. With the wind, I mean, England will be. This is the thing. This is the thing with England. England wouldn't let Shoaib Bashir bowl 20 overs in Hagley. I mean, they wouldn't. Reverse sweeping him, run down the wicket, trying to belt him everywhere. I think he bowled 20 overs, 20 good overs, because the bowlers are struggling from that end. I'm not sure New Zealand are as proactive as England against the spinner. But one thing is for sure, the spinner comes on, and if it is Santner, I think England will fancy themselves to take him down.
Be Duffy for Saudi, if anything.
Duffy for Saudi,
Maybe.
the only one you can see.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Harmy did say a couple of days ago he could see both teams being unchanged, except. Let's talk all-rounders for a second, because I want to ask you about Ben Stokes and what happens if he can't bowl. I mean, he did halfway through his 7th over, he didn't finish the over, which is unusual. Maybe that was just another one of the norms that England are challenging. You know, it's like, well, you finish an over if you can, because that's what had the way Test cricket has been for 140 years, and they're saying, no, you know what, if you don't need to finish it. Someone else can finish it for you. So he might be absolutely fine, and he might be ready to go as an all-rounder. So there's that to comment on. But also Nathan Smith, because to me, to my modestly trained eye, I thought he looked like he belonged. I thought he looked like an athlete. I thought he bowled well. Never mind the figures. 2 for 140. He could well have had 570.
And the second innings, I'm not sure what the plan is. He never bowls like that for Wellington, and bowling short, and Bethel just filled his boots, didn't they?
Well, I mean, they just disrespected him, didn't they? I mean, the England Openers, and everybody, Jacob Bethel.
Everybody was copping it.
Yeah, just clobbered him. And I don't think you can read anything into that.
No.
It was a run chase of 104.
Okay.
So you both agree that he looked the part?
Yeah, I thought he
Wellingtonian. I'm quite biased.
Okay, so you're biased. All right.
I thought he looked the part. I thought he bowled like the ball to Joe Root. I thought it surprised Joe he seemed to get quicker off the pitch. He seemed to bowl it into the pitch, and it sort of skidded on that little bit quicker. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if Nathan Smith's challenge is in about 10 test matches time, when he's played between 10 and 15 test matches, when people start getting used to the pace of him and the lengths he bowls. Because at this minute in time, I think what good strength he's got is a little bit of inconsistency off the surface. So he hits the pitch that hard. Sometimes they skid onto you, and I think he's very, very difficult to start your innings on. And he's durable. I like what I saw. I thought he batted really well. His fielding was excellent. He could have had 5 for 65. So yeah, I think he's short term. I think he's got a huge amount to give for New Zealand. I think long term, I think it's always a challenge when somebody reads it. So a team and word gets around. So you play around the world on different surfaces, and then you have to learn again when somebody gets used to your skill sets. And I think that's something you will have to learn naturally, which I'm sure he will. He's played county cricket. He's played in different parts of the world. So I think I mean that's not something which is a criticism. That's just his next development of his career. So I really enjoyed the way he played. I thought Orog was very, very good. I thought Henry was excellent, but I wouldn't read too much into, like I said, into the way I would question some of the game. Like I said earlier on, the game plan towards their batters, Jacob Bethel coming in. I mean, if I was bowling at Jacob Bethel and I'm looking at somebody like Will O'Rourke, I'm going to bowl over the wicket to him, and I'm going to test his ribcage out. I'm going to go short leg, man back. Yeah, fair enough. You want to have a go. You're 21 years old. You feel as you can tap me on. I'm going to bowl everything in here. I'm going to get you in here, and the one that goes across you, because I thought in the first innings he was eager, and he's off stump. He's not a natural number 3, so with him not being a natural number 3 in Test cricket, just fetching for his off stump. Not sure he knew where it was first up. So for me, if I was talking to Will O'Rourke, I'd be looking, ribcage area with a man at short leg, no man on the leg side in front of square, having a man back at deep square leg with fine leg, bowling a lot through here, and then challenging that sort of 5.5 metre mark around off stump to see if I can get him to play, push away from myself when he naturally gets it right. So these are the things I'd be looking to have a go at England at. Duckett's different. Duckett, you pitch it up, try to get him to play with a straight bat. These are things that I don't think New Zealand got right in that, not so much in the second innings. The little game plan changes I think New Zealand should be looking at. But I think in Nathan Smith, they've got a tidy little all-rounder to come in behind Glenn Phillips. Tim Southey behind has got a free roll of 6 hitting. What is he at? 95 sixes? So they've got a nice balance down there of aggression and somebody that can hang around if they're put in that position.
New Zealand fans want to see 95 defensive pushes from Tim Southey, though, more to London sass. It never has a man's batting been more discussed.
Can you imagine this young fella? How many Baz got? How many's Brendan McCullum got? Is he what 6 has he got? He's with
107.
Is he? Oh, he's not getting that then. Unless he does get him out of the match in one of the next 2 Test matches.
Well, he needs 12 more.
Yeah, he's not getting that. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people talking about it and rather hoping for it. But you're listening to the second edition of the Following on New Zealand podcast, brought to you by talkSPORT and 100% pure New Zealand. It looks like our glasses are empty. We're going to talk a little bit more about this wonderful country and NZ tourism. We're at the Wild Workshop, the Garage project, a microbrewery, which, as I said at the beginning, is not so micro anymore. They've put out over 450 different kinds of beer, and I'm still feeling very overwhelmed, not by the quantity, but by the taste. But we'll work on quantity in the final part. You're listening to the second of 3 special episodes of the Following on New Zealand podcast, brought to you by talkSPORT and 100% pure New Zealand. I have to say, Harmy, that cricket in New Zealand, touring, and I suppose playing, is different to anywhere else in the world. I mean, the hospitality that I've always experienced, and now particularly from NZ Tourism, has been extremely special. And is that your experience as a player?
Yeah, I think so. I think you look at just last week. You went, the Hagley Oval. We walked to the ground every morning. The players went on the e-scooters to the ground. I mean, it's just you can't see them going through London and the e-scooter or Mumbai or Lahore.
Would get there.
Yeah, there's not many getting there. So it is such a relaxed environment. I think last week was played in a brilliant atmosphere, both on and off the field. I thought the scenes were brilliant from up above. I thought the actual atmosphere of the game was fantastic. I thought the spirit of the game was played in was even better. So I just think it's you go anywhere else in the world and there can be a little bit of aggro. go to Australia and it's feisty. Even when you got the Caribbean, sometimes it's a little bit heated and feisty. It's noisy. Anywhere in the subcontinent, even in the likes of Sri Lanka, which is probably the most, as you'll say, the placid of Bangladesh. India, Pakistan. You go earplugs, and it's just a ridiculous noise. So I'm leaving your place out in South Africa. That's a little bit different. But this, I think, is so unique because of the ground sizes and everything that goes with it. It's like festival atmosphere, and the grass banks. I think they just make it. I really do think the grass banks in this country, when you're watching cricket, just make for the atmosphere, for the viewing from a spectator, and from a visual when you're watching it from up above. I don't think it gets beat.
Is the hospitality and tranquility for which New Zealand is so famous something that you're very proud of? Does New Zealand cricket focus on that and look to enhance it?
Or hearing you both speak about it, yes, I am proud to hear it. It's all I've ever really known. It's what we know. We don't have a lot of main character energy type individuals. We're all about happy days, lazy days of summer. Going to the back at the Basin Reserve. My formative years absolutely loved that. I was a little bit raucous back in the day when licensing laws was a bit different, but there is a great tranquility about New Zealand cricket. But for certain, I think we're very proud of that. But I think we're very proud of what the Black Caps have achieved over a number of times. I can't say this enough. We have 6 domestic cricket teams for which we select an international side from. And punch above our weight. Yeah, you've heard that many and many a time.
I know, we need to move on. Darren, we need to move on. New Zealand's not punching above
I think we punch to our weight. I just think we prepare smarter than a lot of teams, and that we maximise and get full utility out of our playing stocks. For me to ponder this, Tim Southey's been an incredible servant. He's going to go close to 400 Test wickets, and generally, when someone like that moves off, you're thinking, well, New Zealand cricket fans are excited about what is next. When players come back fully fit, Kyle Jamieson, Ben Sears, alongside the likes of Matt Henry, who is now the figurehead of this attack, Will O'Rourke, which we've discussed, Nathan Smith. That's an allotment of 5 seam bowlers that could serve New Zealand very, very well for long periods of time. I'd still like more runs in the top order, of course, but yes, I'm really, really proud of our cricketing environment and how welcome we are. 3 Test matches means a lot. For way too long we've played 2-match series and suffered through 2-match series, but we had to change opinions. We needed results. We have to change people's opinions. We've got 3 tests. Yeah, our cousins from Australia have invited us for 4 tests in a couple of years, so hopefully that can continue, but there is an onus on New Zealand to keep delivering those results.
I'm in shock. Australia have invited you for 4 tests.
They have.
Not 5, of course.
Did someone pull out?
Yeah,
when was the last time?
India's gone home. We're going home, yeah.
Australia playing India at the moment.
As long as it's not on when the IPL's on, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Now, look, we're here at the Garage Project's Wild Workshop. It's been a spectacular experience. I honestly meant what I said. I thought I knew a little bit about beer, not so much about craft beer, but this has blown my mind. There's what do they call it? A cool sub, some brewing technique upstairs in the room above us.
It's like a paddling pool.
Yeah, where they cool down with it.
Yeah, they open the window outside. And
what is it?
Wild yeast.
Wild yeast.
Wild yeast. The aeration, the conditions. See, I listened,
but it's gone straight over the top of my head.
But somebody's going to sleep with it all the time. Can I have that job? I'd quite happily. Apparently there's a hammock on the side. Good luck fitting.
The brewing process is
not breaking that up.
Yeah. Hey, listen, guys, we're going to ask Sophia Holstein to come and join us. She's the master brewer. No. Sophia, it's wonderful to have you with us. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I honestly cannot imagine who is in charge of the creative processes here, because there are some things that I have could never ever have imagined. Salted grapefruit. Caram, what was it? Salted grapefruit?
Deep pomelo and coriander goes in.
So who thinks of that?
Well, we've got our amazing head brewer, Dave, down here, and we've got also Pete, who is one of the founders of Garage Project. So these two have the wild workshop in their hands. I just make sure that the communication goes to everyone else. But those other two heads behind the wild workshop, really, and Pete himself being the founder.
You notice Daniel's
Farmer.
wearing one of your sweatshirts,
I was very proud of that.
and it wasn't a freebie. He bought it. So Daniel, clearly you are a regular.
Well, no, it's a bit of a Wellington institution over the last 10 years. The craft beer community of Wellington, we're pretty proud of. We like to say we're the craft beer capital of the world. I'm not sure the world listens, but who cares? But it's a great, rich industry, and Garage Project have been right at the forefront of that. From humble beginnings out in Lyell Bay.
Yeah.
So where does it come from? I mean, I just tried this IPA, and I'm absolutely convinced that there's passion fruit in it. I mean, I tasted passion fruit immediately, but with the idea of using these different ingredients, and also I'd like you to explain to Harmy the difference between a craft beer and sour beer. I think you were mentioning. Harmy loves a regulation lager.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm a lager. I'm a simple man who I just love the name of beer. I mean, that's just straight up my street. That's northeast of England. That's Ashington, coming straight out of that. All these funny names. What's that one? Elephant never forgets. A simple beer.
You're going to try that one. Apparently, it's a sour beer, so you're gonna try that one, Harmy, just to dampen down your good mood.
There was one of four you give me. They were like sweets. Were like them Tentastics.
That was Schnuckelputz as well. That's
that
style
one.
beer. Yeah,
was
that's
nice,
salted
right.
grapefruit.
That was actually, it was incredible. What is the idea to move away from a classic traditional lager and who thinks of these ingredients? Is it a challenge? Somebody says, right, here is a pannet of raspberries. Make some beer out of that.
Well, it's not really all about that. That's why we've got like two sites as well. We've got Arrow Valley, which was our original brewery where it all started out. And that's where, like, for example, your fresh, where you tasted passion fruits, nothing to do with passion fruits actually in there. It's very much the hop character, so really hop forward, choosing those amazing hops that are coming from certain sites as well around New Zealand, coming from the US as well, and they bring those beautiful flavours to the beer. Whereas down here, we really like to infuse as well. We like to infuse and take that palette of strawberries and chuck that into our tanks. But also using the wild yeast and taking risks, trying something new. It's very much the motto here at Garage Project.
Sophia, is it from a beer point of view and putting the ingredients together? Is it a little bit like cooking, where you just go throw it all in the pot, give it a mix up, and voila, it comes out? Because it seems to be like that. I mean, some of the ingredients you would never put in a fruit bowl, but you can put into a can and you see it 7% and it flies off the shelf.
Look, I would like to look into Pete and all our brewers' heads for this one. There's definitely a little bit more involved in that. And for us down here, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So it's not always that it works out. But we're definitely getting better and better. But yeah.
That's also the tastes. It's like everybody's got so many different tastes of food and everybody's different tastes of like sweet stuff, sour stuff. So if you've got so many varieties, I suppose it's something there is a beer for somebody here.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of what we're going for. We've also just did a new launch of our alcoholic lemonade. So even there, too high inspired our konbini. We don't just think about the beer drinkers out there. We also have a little niche market for everyone that doesn't. This is our konbini, Chuhai inspired alcoholic lemonade, 2 flavors. So that's gonna go out there, and hopefully everyone's gonna enjoy that as well.
What were you drinking? What was that one you were drinking?
I was drinking the Happy Days.
Yep.
So I'm always happy, especially when I'm with you guys. That is a Pacific Pale Ale. It's delightful.
Okay, guys, we're going to have to move on and finish this hard work here ahead of us off camera. Thank you very much indeed for watching the third and final episode. The second episode. We're moving on to the third and final episode in Hamilton next week. I think it's what I haven't had. It's the problem. It's been a fantastic experience here. We're going to have a bit more of an experience if Sophia will allow us to hang around for a while we debrief. You've been listening to the second episode of the Following on New Zealand podcast with talkSPORT and 100% Pure New Zealand. Don't forget, go to newzealand.com for the latest travel offers and adventures.